So moments back, India's largest rights issue has closed, and we have this special gentleman who has been leading it from the front for the last couple of weeks. I'm talking about Atul Mehra, MD and CEO of JM Financial's investment banking arm, which has been instrumental in doing this historic transaction in the Indian capital markets. Atul, good evening. Thank you very much for your time. As you can see the numbers, it has comfortably and much more than comfortably sailed through. 53,000 crore must have been some sort of a achievement for sure. Tell us about your experience for this transaction, and more importantly, the environment this has been conducted in. Pretty challenging due to completely being indoors, etc., and the market turmoil, etc.
So thank you very much, Ajay, for inviting us to your show. Let me start by first of all thanking Reliance for appointing us as the book running lead manager to this transaction. It's a very prestigious transaction. We are extremely proud of being associated with this transaction. This transaction at a size of 53,000 crore, 153,000 crore is the largest capital market transaction that has happened in India. It's a very unique transaction that has happened in India, not only in terms of its size, but the efforts, the configuration that has gone behind it to make this issue a success. And I would like to use this opportunity to highlight, after the closure of this issue, some of the unique things that have happened in this transaction, and probably for the first time in India. First and foremost, this was the first rights issue that happened in an era where SEBI has come out with the new guidelines for the rights issue. Secondly, this was the first rights issue where electronic renunciation of rights issues were carried out. Third, and which is again a very unique point, this is the first rights issue where the rights entitlement form was dispatched to the shareholders electronically. What is again very interesting and very unique out over here is that we built a special portal, which is again a first of its kind created to help the shareholders participate in the rights issue using net banking and UPI. This was essentially done in the background of the pandemic that we are all going through, and shareholders will not be able to go to the bank. This was just a step to facilitate that. And the last and most important thing, please don't forget, we completed this entire transaction from the date of the board meeting to the closure of this issue in 34 days. So 30th of April was the board meeting, and 30th of June is the right issue closing date. So 34 days flat, this transaction has been completed.
Right. I'm curious to understand from you about how the investor reactions were. What kind of conversations were they having with you regarding the attractiveness of Reliance rights issue?
So this rights issue was very well received by all categories of investor. In fact, it was loved by them. It was a very investor-friendly product. And if you ask me to analyze it, I would analyze it in a couple of points for you. One, the pricing was very attractive since the beginning when the rights ratios were announced and the rights pricing was announced. It was a 14.25% discount to the then prevailing price. By the time the issue closed, because of the upward trajectory in the Reliance Industries price, the discount had become even more attractive at 22.5%. So first and foremost, the pricing was very attractive. It was very well received by the investor. Second is the issue structure of partly paid shares. This was a very important element of this rights issue, and I would say a very important ingredient which made this rights issue very, very unique and very, very successful. It is this feature which has made it so investor friendly and it was loved by investors across the category. Whether you're a financial institution, a domestic mutual fund, or the retail and HNI, they all loved this feature. Third, which is a fundamental factor over and above the two technical factors that I discussed with you, was this rights issue was seen as helping the company further reduce the leverage and was EPS accretive. Okay. In the fundamental direction, looking at the share price performance and the steadiness of the stock, it is very easy to believe and say that investors were convinced that the new model of new RIL is going to be hugely value accretive for all the shareholders, which is why I say that this issue was very, very well received by all the shareholders. Now, this is a very interesting topic and I can talk about it at length. There are two important things for you to see and for us to visualize it, how it is played out. During the entire tenure of the rights issue, right from the date the board meeting happened, which was on 30th of April, to the issue opening date, which was 20th of May, to the closure, which is 3rd of June, you see the stock price. The stock price has been very steady with an upward trajectory. It was at 1452, as I mentioned, when we priced the rights issue. And today, when we closed, it's at 1541. It's a thumbs up, which means that the investors have loved this rights issue and they have appreciated it. The second, the empirical evidence for their love and respect for this rights issue is in the rights renunciation. And this is a very important to appreciate and note. The volume of the rights renunciation in this entire period from 20th to 29th was almost 11.5 crore shares. It traded almost, it saw a high of around 270, and a low of 152. But you can say the average, volume weighted average was something in the region of 230 to 40. This is a very, very healthy number. And I come back to this number in a minute. The value of renunciation trading which happened in the market was almost 2,250 crore.
Right.
And if you see as a percentage of rights issue, it's even more interesting. Almost 26-27% of the rights issue changed hands in the rights renunciation. So which is again goes to show the empirical strength in the rights issue.
Atul, this rights entitlement trading, one of its kind, unique innovation being done by SEBI, starting with Reliance rights issue. Talk to us about the participation here. What we gather is that a couple of ETF guys and GDR holders were, because of their, the process had to renounce. But who are the buyers? Give us some color or at least some flavor of the category of guys which have lapped all of that up.
Look, I'm not at the liberty at this point of time to disclose who the buyers were. But suffice to say, looking at the volume that has happened, and you know who the sellers were, my guidance to you would be that the bulk of it was bought by the institutions with an adequate buying from HNI and retail. So there was a broad-based buying. Of course, because of the volume, their FIIs were the bulk buyers, but very high volumes and a unique record signed. A unique experience to be managing this rights renunciation for Reliance.
Right. Atul, again, you spoke about.
You have to understand a little bit about why there was so much of fancy for the rights renunciation.
Sure.
And again, there are two kinds of people in the market: the guys who are bullish on Reliance and the guys who are not so bullish on Reliance. So imagine for a minute you are a guy who is bullish and favorably poised towards Reliance Industries. You have three options for you. Reliance. You have the options of playing it through the futures and options market, in which case you have to pay the VAR margin and then settle the difference on a month-end basis as to whether it's gone up. Third, which is a very smart way, a unique way of playing this stock, is through the rights renunciation trading. Now you understand this option is therefore become very favorable, and therefore you saw the kind of frenzy and trading volume that you saw in the renunciation market was because of the third factor, where the investor believes, Ajay, that this is one of the most attractive way and a most attractive methodology to play Reliance stock in future.
Sure. Fair point. So this new Reliance which you were alluding to, clearly on a very targeted and focused agenda or debt reduction perhaps will be achieved way ahead of how the chairman, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, had targeted earlier March, but analysts believe that perhaps December itself in this calendar, this is the debt reduction mega move which is being attempted. Tell us, once the company becomes EPS, accretive, this particular fundraising as well, how is the attractiveness of the company being gauged by some of the funds which were perhaps interacting with you?
So I cannot, it's unfair at this stage to comment on this because the rights issue has just got over. But suffice to say, we have spoken to investors. Investors were very positive. They were very, very bullish on the company. In fact, each and every investor that we spoke to wanted to have more of this rights issue, and they wanted to buy as much as it's available in the renunciation.
Sure.
Just to give you a perspective, the investors who sold the shares in the renunciation market have to sell it out of no choice. I call it no choice because their charter did not permit them to participate, or there was a challenge for the GDR holders to participate. Sure. But apart from that, the general response across the street was, where can we get more renunciation? If you see the oversubscription figure, it indicates to you that there is more positive biasness towards the stock, that people are applying more for their rights entitlement, which means that in case you and I choose not to apply for the rights issue, there are many other shareholders who want to take it up.
Right. All right. One last question, Atul. Though perhaps this is not the right time, but I cannot let you go before, without asking you, what are your thoughts on the markets? A furious rally in the works for the last 1 week. How have you been analyzing the overall the way market landscape is panning out?
So Ajay, very interesting question at a very interesting time. Okay, the reason is when we started the year in Jan 20, we were sitting very comfortable with Nifty around 12,000 plus level. Then we have this whole COVID news coming and impacting market, going all the way down to 7,600, a healthy 38% correction. But since then, we have seen the market move up back to 10,100 level. Now, was this waiting to happen? In our opinion, it was waiting to happen. It was a trade which was sitting to happen. Why do we say so? Because you speak to any and many market participants and you will figure out most of them were bearish. Most of them were of the view that there is no strength in the market and the market could correct further. When you have such a lopsided view on one side of the market, our experience has been market usually does not correct. And we had believed that this market will rally, which it has rallied. And we believe this rally is here to stay. The question out over here is, why do we believe so? Fundamentally, we believe India is a great place to be in. India is a great place to invest your money in. And there are hundreds of reasons, but 4 or 5 important reasons. It's a country which has many entrepreneurs. It's a country which has many, many good companies, not few good companies, but many, many good companies. We have entrepreneurs who have fighting spirit, and we believe we will be amongst the first in the nation to get back to normalcy. Having said that, we believe that you don't get carried away with what you have seen in the last 2 months. Look at what is happening in the market. Look at what is happening in front of your eyesight. We have seen in the last, I would say 5 or 6 weeks, a liquidity infection to the extent of 1,40,000 to 1,50,000 crore happened in the market. And this is a very healthy sign, which means that if there is a good company, if there is a robust company, money is not a scarcity at all. And what is happening is the big boys have shown us the way. Reliance has shown us the way. And I'm sure there will be many more who will follow the path, and you will see many more capital market transactions happening in near future.
Right. All right. Atul, I'll let you go on that one. I won't.
No, I will not go. I have one more thing.
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay. again, on behalf of all of us involved in this Reliance transaction, this mega transaction, it was a historic one, an epic one in the making. I would like to sincerely put on record my thanks to SEBI and the two stock exchanges, the BSE and the NSE, for the tremendous support that they have given to us for the execution of this transaction. It is suffice to say that this transaction would have not so successfully closed or so easily closed had we not had their best wishes and support with us. Again, thanking them once again.
Oh, yes, that's correct. The exchanges have actually, and the SEBI have put the mechanisms so wonderfully in place that it got executed pretty smoothly. But I will wind up on that optimistic note, and I will not keep you away from popping the bubbly on perhaps on a Zoom call with you and your friends and your team members on the closure of the transactions, or perhaps you may have planned it at a later date. But thank you so much, Atul, for your time. We shall interact later once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajay.